Hello and welcome to today's video. My name is Anniken. I design knitting patterns, I teach knitting workshops online and in person, and I sell yarn, which you can find on my website yarnaddict.co.uk. Welcome to today's video, which is a tutorial on how to seam garter stitch. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. It really helps me a lot. It also helps me a lot if you give the video a thumbs up and leave a comment. It just helps other people to see my channel. I post regularly here on YouTube, and I do a mixture of tutorials, podcast episodes, and knit and chat, or crochet and chat, where I talk about different topics while I knit or crochet. So if you like this video, do give it a thumbs up and let me know what kind of content you would like to see from me in the future. So this is a hand warmer that I've knitted. I can take that, I put a marker in just to help me count. And I don't need that, so I've taken that out. This is a hand warmer. I designed these hand warmers for my Brioche Improvers class. I knitted the first one for a class a couple of months ago, and then I didn't knit the second one, and I thought maybe I should knit the second one as well. So I need to seam this together. I don't actually have the first one here. I don't know where I put it, and I can't find it right now. So I'm going to use this one. This is just knitted flat because this is for a specific class, and I wanted it to be fairly easy, so it's just worked flat and then it's folded, and I'm going to seam it, and it's a garter stitch seam. So I thought I would film what I do so I can show you how easy it is to stitch, to sew up garter stitch. Let me just work out which way this goes. I think it goes that way. Okay, that's the right side, this is the wrong side. So I'm going to fold it. If you have two pieces of garter stitch that you need to seam, you just lie them side by side. I go through in a lot more detail on different types of seams, mostly mattress stitch, how to seam stocking stitch, rows to rows, stitches to stitches, and stitches to rows, and garter stitch, plus loads of other finishing things like short row shoulder shaping, two different types of short rows, picking up stitches, knitting button bands and edgings, seaming, setting in sleeve caps, one row buttonholes, and lots more stuff in my online finishing techniques course, and I'll pop the link to that below as well if you want to check that out. Okay, let's start this seaming. I'm going to use this green yarn first. I'm going to use the grey yarn, and actually at that end left a really long tail. Not quite sure why, because I don't tend to use the tail to sew up with. But I'm going to use a green one to start with, just so you can see what I'm doing easier, and then I'll show you what it looks like when I'm using the grey yarn. So if you have two pieces of garter stitch, you can just lay them side by side on the table. That's easier, but because I'm seaming these together, I'm folding it, and I have the right side facing me. So if I had two pieces, I would put them side by side with the right side up. Because I'm going to fold this over, I'm putting the right side down, but then I'm folding it over so that the right side ends up on this side, if you know what I mean. Okay. I normally prefer to join in a new length of yarn when I seam things, but here, because I have two ends down here and I have two ends up here, one there and one there, because these hand warmers are basically reversible, I don't want too many ends to have to weave in at the end, so I'm going to use this tail. Now what I'm going to do is show you how to do it using this yarn, just so you can see it, and I'll undo that and I'll show you how to do it using the grey yarn, which is more invisible, because you will be able to see this. So it doesn't matter whether you start on the right piece or the left piece, just choose one, and then you're going to, with garter stitch, and you don't want to slip the first stitch of every row when you're doing this. So I quite often on my shawls and scarves and things, I will slip the first stitch purlwise with the yarn in front, which gives you a really smooth edge. And I did actually do it up here for like a couple of rows. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that smoother? And then there's a bump there and a bump there. There's no bump there because I accidentally slipped it, because I'm so used to doing that. And I did it there as well for a couple of rows. But if you're going to seam garter stitch, it's a lot easier if you don't slip the first stitch and you just knit it like normal. So knit the first stitch and the last stitch as normal. So I'm going to find this garter stitch bump on the edge of the fabric here. It kind of sits right at the edge of the fabric, and I'm going to put my needle up through that loop, and then I'm going to go over to the other piece of the other fabric and do the same thing. I had a parcel delivery, so I had to pause and go and open the door before the dog started barking. Okay, so you're basically going back and forth. So normally I will just have this in my lap or down on the table, but I hold it a little bit closer to the camera. So just find that bump right on the edge. You will have two bumps there, doesn't really matter whether you go into the one that's right on the edge here or the one that's just tilting towards the right side. I don't think it matters that much which one you do. There we go. So just under one. Hope you can see that, even though my needle is grey and my stitches are grey. And then we go back to the first side and find the next bump there, and it's the one right on the edge of the fabric. And then we are going to just go back and forth like this, and you don't have to worry about pulling it tight, you can leave it loose. So this is like mattress stitch in the way that you go back and forth and you don't tighten it straight away, but it's not exactly like mattress stitch. It's kind of mattress stitch for garter stitch, if you like. Okay, so I'm just going to do a couple more, and then I'm going to just tighten it. Now, if I had a yarn with a tail, so if I'd used a new piece of yarn and left a tail hanging out, I would normally hold onto that tail to pull against, but because I don't do that, I'm just going to pinch it at the bottom here where I started. So you can see that kind of zigzags back and forth. Then I'm going to pull that tight. Now you've got to be careful you don't pull it too tight. Now can you see here that you can see this green line? This way of seaming, I'm just going to do a couple more. This way of seaming is not completely, the thread you're using is not completely invisible. So it is a good idea, if you can, to use the same color that you've knitted in. With mattress stitch on stocking stitch, you can actually use a different color, and it's usually invisible. Unless you stretch the fabric a lot, then you might just about see it, but normally it's invisible. With this method, it's not invisible, but it does create a completely flat seam. Right, let me just do that. So can you see, you can just about see the green line through there. It's not very visible, but you can see it. But it does create a seam that lies completely flat. There is no edge to that seam. Normally you'll get like a little ridge. This is just completely flat, side by side, which makes it great for things that are going to be reversible. Now let me just show you. I'll start from the top here. Let me just show you what it looks like. This thread is way too long, but we won't worry about that. Let me show you what it looks like when you're using the same color yarn. So because the yarn is already joined in on that side, I will start on this side. Now normally if I'm going to, let me do this now actually. Normally if I'm using the tail, just to neaten off that top edge a little bit, and I don't want to do that with the green yarn because it's a different colour, I'm actually just going to go, like I would normally do to weave in the yarn, just go across the edge a couple of times. So I'm not actually starting the proper seaming yet. This is what I normally do, just to neaten off the join when I weave in when I weave in the end. Okay, and then we'll start sewing. So we'll find the bump on that side. Because the yarn is coming from the left, I'll find the bump on the right. And then I'll go back to the left, and it's a little bit loose here because it's the first couple of rows, which can sometimes be a little bit loose. I'm going to actually go just a little bit further up, just to try and hide that. There was a loose stitch there on the edge, so I've just tried to hide that a bit. Then I'm going to go back to this side, and I'm going to try and choose that bump that's right on the edge of the fabric. This is actually the way I prefer to hold it. When I first learned to do mattress stitch and things, I used to put the pieces on the table because I found that easier. Now I just do it with the knitting in my lap, and then I tend to just hold it like that, so I can see what I'm doing quite easily. Okay, so that is the one, hang on, is it? That's the one that's right on the edge of the fabric. Sometimes it can be a little bit difficult to see, but as long as because you have the bump that's right on the edge, and you have kind of like one that's sitting on the front and one that's sitting on the back, any of those will be fine. But if you can try and stick to the same one all the way up, that would be preferable. So I've done that one, so that's the next one up here. That one I've done, so I don't want to go into that one because that belongs to that bump. So I'm going to go up here. And then I'm going to go up here. And then across to here. And then I'm just going to pull that tight. So I want to pinch it here and then just gently pull it just to tighten it up. And where I went across to neaten it at the start, that looks, give me a nice neat join. Normally if I left the tail hanging out, if I joined in a new yarn, I left the tail, I would just leave the tail. I'd start doing the actual seaming, and then I would use the tail just to neaten off the join afterwards. But I did that before I started because I was using the tail. Can you see there now how you can't see that grey yarn that I'm seaming with at all? It's completely disappeared through here, and the seam is completely flat. So if I turn it around on the wrong side, you got that little bit of a loopy stitch. I don't know why I end up with a loopy stitch, but I did. So you can see it's completely flat. There's no ridge there. If you feel it, it's completely flat. It just feels like the garter stitch continues across. And this seam is perfect for things that are reversible, whether it's sweaters, hand warmers like these, blankets, anything that you want to be reversible. Anytime you seam garter stitch, really. You can do regular mattress stitch with garter stitch as well, but it's a little bit more difficult because of the fact that you have a combination of knit and purl stitches. It makes it a little bit more difficult. If you have any questions about this, please let me know below. I'll just show you the difference actually. So that's grey and that's the one in green, so you can see the green thread through here. So if you're interested in more on my finishing tips and tricks and techniques, then do check out my online finishing techniques course. I'll leave the link to all my online courses below. They are great to give as a present to somebody. I'm filming this at the end of November, and this tutorial will be out in December 2022. So if you're watching this when it first comes out and you're thinking about a Christmas present for a knitter, but you don't want to worry about postage. Postage is very expensive these days, and if you're shipping abroad, you've also got customs fees and things to think about. And in the UK at the moment, we have postal strikes. So online courses are a great idea. If you want to give it as a present to somebody, then send me an email or leave me a comment below, and I'll tell you how to do that. If you just want to buy for yourself, then you can just click on the link and purchase it. But if you want to give it to somebody else, then get in touch with me first, and we'll arrange a way for you to do that so that they get the link and they sign up to the course and not you, but you pay for it. Okay, so I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions, ask them below this video. These hand warmers are not available. They're only available as part of my Brioche Improvers course at the moment. They may become available in the future. I'm not sure yet. There may also be a Brioche online course in 2023. So if there is, they will be available as part of that. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate your time. Please give the video a thumbs up if you like this video. Please leave me a comment and let me know if you've tried to sew garter stitch before and what you think. And is this the method you use, or do you use another method? And please subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.